For USCFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith, joined by Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis from USC's 24-17 loss at the hands of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Shotgun, this loss feels a little bit like the Michigan one from a couple of weeks ago. Going on the road in the Big Ten, a slow start, some resilience from USC, but too many mistakes made, and it all came down to a 4th and 1 from the goal line. USC this time thought they got the stop initially, but the review said Minnesota touchdown, 7-point lead, 50 seconds left, and USC couldn't get it done and fall for the second time on the road this season.
Yeah, it was a little deja vu, just the fact that they have a 3-and-out right before that drive. Minnesota drives it down the field. They didn't have the big 63-yard run like Michigan did, but we're able to get a couple of chunk plays in there, and we're able to get it down inside the red zone, and USC uses all their timeouts, forces the 4th down. I was a little surprised that P.J. Fleck didn't just kick the field goal, but they go for it. They are stopped. They were stopped, and then the call was overturned. All the replays we saw in the stadium, I just don't know how you overturn that call. I was very surprised when that happened. It seemed like the USC sideline, I was over close to the sideline, they were very surprised as well that it happened. But then you have an opportunity to go out there and try to make a play, and Miller Moss gets them down inside into Minnesota territory, but so little time, he's got to push the ball down the field, and they were playing deep safeties throughout the game. They were forcing USC to try to take underneath stuff. USC throws the ball 38 times for only 200 yards. They did run the ball well. They ran for over 6 yards per carry, but they needed to just rely on that more. You had 20 carries for Woody Marks. You only had 4 for Quentin Joyner, and you had the fumble, and he didn't play again. It seemed like this was a game where you need to play that Big Ten style, rely on the run game more. But on that penultimate drive, when they go 3-and-out, they threw it. I think they may have one run in there, but at 3rd and 4, and they decide to take a shot down the field. Now, Jacoby Lane looked like he should have been pass interference or holding or something on it, but there were not many flags thrown in USC's favor in this game, other than some after the play, brandishing a weapon was called on that final drive, and that seemed like it might have a huge impact. Instead, Coy Parrish makes a really nice play coming up and just going up to go get the ball, playing center field on that one, leaping over Deuce Robinson, and then holding on the ball because he got flipped over and still held on to it. So USC comes up, a play short, and that's what Lincoln Riley said after the game is that, hey, we're in these games, we're just a play short, but we got to find a way to push over, and he's right. But also, if you stop making so many mistakes along the way, then it wouldn't be a one-play game, and that's the biggest issue. The Mason Murphy getting beat off the edge, Miller Moss gets hit, and they get an interception. They gave them life, because USC was slowly, methodically driving the ball down their throat on that drive, and they had done it the drive before, about to take a 2-score lead, and you were going to see probably some people start debating, all right, should I just go ahead and leave and go get the party started for the rest of the night and forget about this game? Instead, they got energy, they got life, they drive down and get it to the tying score, and then USC doesn't do anything. They end up winning the game on that 4th down play.
Yeah, I'd say USC fans have a lot potentially to blame, some things to complain about, whether that's the officiating, the overturned call. But in reality, it's another week where USC made too many mistakes to feel like they deserve to win. And I feel like last week they made so many mistakes and eked out a win. Obviously, they outscored Wisconsin 28-0 in the second half. You thank the defense and the way the offense responded, but they made a lot of mistakes that if you wrote down before the game, USC will make these mistakes, you could see USC having lost last week. If you write down USC is going to turn the ball over 3 times tonight, in Minnesota territory. They're going to have more penalty yardage than Minnesota. They're not going to throw the ball for more than 200 yards, just 200 right on the dot. Then you start to imagine, okay, yeah, USC is going to lose this game. Now, because it's close and because there are things that USC fans could potentially have to complain about, it does sting. But I think, again, Lincoln Riley mentions one play away. It's another week where USC put itself in a position against an inferior opponent to be one play away from losing. You can say the same thing for Michigan. You can say the same thing for tonight against Minnesota. And you can say the same thing for a lot of games last season. And there were games that they eked out wins last year where they were one play away from losing and still managed to win games they probably deserved to lose. And now under Lincoln Riley, the Trojans have lost 7 of their last 12 dating back to last season.
Yeah, and they just had to play better. I mean, it's plain and simple. They missed too many tackles this game. I mean, we've given the defense a ton of credit this year and made tremendous strides, but I think you're starting to see the impact of how little depth they actually have. that final play, you had Jade Abasiri, true freshman, now he's back home playing in Minnesota, but you have him besides Sam Green, a guy who's got less than 20 defensive snaps in his career with the first team, and those are the guys that they ran it towards that side of the defense. Those are the guys that were in there because Anthony Lucas went down this game, Kobe Covington went down. You did not have Eric Gentry on this trip. You did get Akili Arnold back, but then there was a large swath of the game where he didn't play and it was not really explained. Didn't look like he didn't go in the medical tent, that's all, but he didn't play for 4 or 5 drives and then came back in at the end. But your guys that you needed to rely on, Easton Mascarenas Arnold, now he had 14 tackles, but he also missed some tackles. Jalen Smith missed some tackles. Mason Cobb, I think, had 11 tackles, so it was a big game for the linebackers. So as impactful as Eric Gentry has been, you could definitely feel his presence missing out there. Anthony Beavers filled in for him, played that Sam linebacker position. I thought he played pretty well, but USC just didn't make enough plays, whether it be getting that third down stop that they needed to get or getting that final fourth down stop. They didn't make enough plays and they made too many mistakes, especially on the offensive side. And when you put that together with playing on the road in a rough environment, then you're not going to come away with many wins. So they have to clean a lot of stuff up. They are still capable of playing a lot better. The offensive line played better in this game. Lincoln Riley was asked about it after the game. You're going to point to the play where Miller Moss got hit by the defensive end coming around, Mason Murphy. He definitely did not play well in that play, but overall the offensive line played well. They ran for, like I said, over 6 yards a carry. Now Minnesota played into that. Their defense, they're playing a lot of too high safety. They're playing off coverage and stuff, trying to say, all right, we'll see if you can drive the ball down and not make mistakes. And what did USC do? They made mistakes along the way, whether it be Quentin Joyner fumbling on one of USC's biggest plays of the game. It was 21 yards. I think before that final drive, I don't know the yards on the final drive, but I think that was the longest play that they had all game. And then, you make one mistake off the edge and your quarterback gets hit. They made a nice play to be able to get the interception as well. And like I said, that turned the tide for them, and they were able to build on that momentum and go down. And again, from my vantage point, I was right behind the goal line. It looked like he was stopped initially. Watching the replays, you go, maybe there was one replay that seemed like it, but it just seemed too hard to overturn when they made the call on the field. But somehow it did get overturned, same as Minnesota getting a timeout back at one point, which Lincoln Riley was not very happy about after the game either. But in the end, it comes down to playing better. USC has to stop. You have to eliminate some mistakes and make a couple more plays themselves. And if they do that, then they would be able to come out with this win. They would have came out with the Michigan win. Instead, this is a team that is learning on the go. And those young guys are going to have to step up as well because that depth is going to be tested on the defensive side. So we'll see where they go from here. We'll see who's healthy next week after some guys got banged up once again.
And who's to say if USC would have won the game had they actually been given that stop? They still have to move off their own 1 yard line. Could they drive in that situation? If it goes to overtime with Minnesota having all the momentum, could they have won it? You never really know, but I agree with you. Watching the replays, I thought there was maybe one where it's like, okay, the football could be over the goal line. It's the only replay that you actually saw the football. I was pretty shocked that they overturned
at the end of the play too. So you wonder, all right, where's the football in the script? When does it come loose? So all those things, it seemed to me it would pile up to whatever the call is on the field. Yeah, would be what you stay with it, or there's no overturning that one in my opinion. But it got called that way. Calls were more favorable towards Minnesota, and that's what's going to happen when you're on the road. And USC is going to have to figure out how they can play better when they make these trips. What adjustments do they have to make? Because now I believe I saw the stat was teams that have traveled more than 2 time zones are now 1-7. And the only win is Indiana blowing out UCLA, and they played on a Friday night the week before, so maybe that extra day was the difference they needed. But this travel is going to affect teams. Everybody want to say no, it's not. Well, we're seeing that it is, and then the depth is going to be a concern for USC too. So those are the big things. When USC in 2 weeks comes back out this way to play Maryland, they're going to turn things around to try to play Penn State. Obviously Penn State didn't play fantastic today, but they beat UCLA. It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere. It should be in the Coliseum, but if they play like they did tonight, or they play like they did against Michigan, then they'll probably lose by 2 touchdowns or more.
You mentioned some of Lincoln Riley's comments. Watching the press conference, sounded like maybe the most curt he's been after a loss. What did you make of some of his comments? What were the main things that stood out to you?
I mean, the main thing is just he kept referencing that they were one play away. They've got to stop making mistakes and make more plays themselves. But yeah, he was not happy after the game. They lost and called out at least one reporter, two reporters didn't answer a couple questions. Told Jamil Muhammad not to answer a question. So it's what most coaches are not happy when they lose a game. But the biggest thing is just they've got to figure out a way to eliminate the mistakes. They're killing three turnovers back-to-back weeks. It's just not going to get it done.
Not to ask you to speak on behalf of the fan base, but we've heard that saying, one play away, 2 plays away. He said today 2 plays away from being undefeated. At what point is that not enough of an explanation to you in your eyes?
I mean, it's college football. Lots of games are 1 play away, 2 play. I mean, college is not as bad as the NFL. In the NFL, it feels like every game is 1 play away. Can you make those plays? The 22-2, his first team, they made those plays. They won those close games. They won at Oregon State. When you have the Nealon nudge, you have the Jordan Addison touchdown. They made those plays. They get the interception late. They haven't been making those plays. So who's going to step up? That's the biggest thing to me is someone has to step up within the team and say, all right, I'm not going to let my team lose today. And I thought Gavin Meyer did a great job knocking down a pass on a 3rd down that forced a punt late or in the 4th quarter. But you need more people to step up. I'm going to make this tackle. I'm going to be the one guy that forces it. So that's the thing that they have to do because a lot of games are 1 play away. Who's going to make that 1 play though? Who's going to say as an offensive tackle, I'm not going to let my man get around me to potentially get to the quarterback and cause a turnover, which is what has happened both the last 2 games. We've seen that happen. Who is going to step up and say enough is enough? I'm not going to get beat anymore and make the plays that are necessary to lead USC to victories.
Where would you put USC's college football playoff hopes right now? We talked about kind of the rest of the way USC had 1 loss, and you figure you budget that for either the Penn State game or the Notre Dame game. Instead, it comes today. So probably to make the college football playoff, they've got to go undefeated the rest of the way. Where do you think that the odds stand right now?
I mean, they're still alive because the schedule that they do have, if they were to run it out, then they would get in, I believe, because you'd have a Penn State win, you would have the win over Notre Dame, you'd have the win over LSU. You have marquee wins available on this, but if they play like they did tonight, they play like they did last week, they're not going to beat Penn State, they're not going to beat Notre Dame, they're not going to beat a couple other teams that are on their schedule. So if they don't play better, it doesn't really matter.
What do you think outside of the college football playoff hopes this this loss means for USC going forward?
It means that they need to, on the flight back, they need to be, it needs to be, heat check time, I guess. Someone needs to be checking everybody and saying, are you ready to step up? Are you ready to, take that next step to do whatever little bit more that you can to help the team win? Because right now they're not getting enough in totality. And that's, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 plays away. Okay, well, someone needs to step up and make that one or 2 plays, break that 1 tackle, make the 1 tackle short of the line, whatever it is. And they didn't do enough of that tonight.
Any other thoughts before we wrap it up?
It was great to see. I thought Woody Marks had an amazing game to end on a little bit of a positive. I thought he was terrific, breaking some tackles as well, was physical between the tackles. I thought USC on offense was patient, and that's not always been the case. I thought Miller Moss took what was given to him because, like I said, they were playing a lot of cover 2, cover 3, a lot of deep safeties and stuff like that. So there weren't the deep shots available. There weren't a lot of chunk plays, and they took the smaller stuff, but you got to be able to finish those drives. And that's been an issue throughout the season. It's been an issue previously in the red zone where they've had to, settle for 3 a couple times. But in this game, it was the turnovers before they actually got in the red zone. They've got to figure out a way to be more efficient when they get inside in scoring territory, basically.
Yeah, you had the Zachariah Branch drop, too. It wasn't exactly a turnover, but on 3rd down on the first drive of the game, chance that if he catches that, it might be a touchdown, or at the very least, he pushes USC even deeper into Minnesota territory. Doesn't catch it, you miss the field goal. And you knew that was a likely possibility with the way that the wind has clearly been swirling around here today. Then you get the field goal at the end of the half, but there were plays that weren't turnovers, I thought, that were similarly big mistakes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not just 1 play. It's not just that 4. If you start looking as the game progresses, there are plays along the way that could be made that were not. And we've seen drops from the wide receivers this season. That's been an issue. We've seen blocks missed by the offensive line. That's been an issue. Who is going to step up and clean that stuff up? That's the big question. You're basically halfway into the season now. You're 5 games in. You've got a home game that's a huge marquee matchup, a chance to the rebound, who's going to, on that flight home, who's going to check other people and say, are you ready to take that step forward? I feel like we should. I don't know that we would hear that story, but I feel like that should be happening on that plane ride home. I feel like one of the leaders should be going off on some people and saying, we got to do better, we got to play better, so that they can play to their potential. Because that's the thing right now. It's not that they're getting beat because they are a worse team. They're getting beat because they're not playing to their full potential.
Yeah, I would agree. And Minnesota had lost 7 straight games to Power 5 opponents dating back to last season. Could have started 0-3 in Big Ten play. Group that allowed 31 points to Iowa, but USC only scored 17. So I think that point rings true.
Yeah, and this was the type of game that they've been losing.
Yeah.
When USC, they were taking the will out of them until that interception that gave them life. USC was running the ball consistently, and then they got stopped on 1 second down, so it was 3rd and 5, and they decided, we got to pass now. Instead, they were in territory where they could have run it twice, and they would have picked up the first down. So, you can look at the play calling in that regard. You can look at the play calling on the penultimate drive as well. I thought Miller Moss played really well. His stats are not going to look good, but I thought he was patient and did what he had to. And the interceptions, you can't really fault him for either one of them, in my opinion. The last one, you got to push the ball down the field. You got to take a chance. I mean, he intercepts the ball. I think there were 7 seconds left. So, you got to take an opportunity to throw it up. And, Deuce Robinson had a shot at it, but that was just a terrific play by the safety. So, I thought Woody Marks played really well. I thought Miller Moss played really well. Now can other people continue to step up around them, because those two guys have been pretty consistent for USC so far.
Yeah. Trojans fall to 3-2. They're 1-2 in the Big Ten Conference. Probably difficult to make the Big Ten championship game now. Definitely a tough road ahead if USC wants to make its first college football playoff. Probably need to go undefeated the rest of the way. That starts next week. Trojans will host a top 10 team in Penn State at the Coliseum. So an opportunity for a bounce-back win, and we'll see if they can take advantage. But for Shotgun Spratling, I'm Jack Smith. Thank you for watching Instant Analysis. Make sure you're checking out USCfootball.com for more.